Hey there, you're listening to Not Another TV Podcast. This is episode 22, week of October 15th, 2023. My name's Drew Koenig. With me, as always, is my co-host, Mads Patesi. Mads, how are you doing?
I'm well rested after a week's vacation.
Nice. How was said vacation?
It was great. I went to Los Angeles for the first time, and it was fun. I got to see a couple different botanical gardens and some museums, and I got to see some famous people's stars on the Walk of Fame.
Very nice.
And I managed to avoid most obnoxious tourists for the most part.
While being said, obnoxious tourists.
The only touristy thing I did was the Walk of Fame.
Okay.
I did a 30-minute guided tour of this place that had costumes and props from like famous sci-fi, fantasy, horror movies. But like, I still didn't feel like that was touristy. I feel like that's just a California in general thing.
That's just the nerd thing.
But yeah, I chose not to do too many like actual touristy things because I was just like, meh.
Nice.
So, how are you?
I am good. I have started. It's weird. Christmas season for me has already begun.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm getting into swing. I'm kind of like preparing myself. Like we already got like Christmas themed vodka and eggnog is out, and I'm just like, okay, let's go. I got this. Yes. It's cool. Already getting gift bags out. It's fine.
We're doing this.
Let's go.
It's not even Halloween yet, but we're doing this.
Did they send me any Halloween merchandise? No, that'd be silly. Just got truck right on through to Christmas. only holiday that matters.
I mean, I feel like Walmart's on that same schedule, so they've got Halloween and Christmas together now.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And they just ignore the fact that there's this thing called Thanksgiving where people get together and eat food together, but whatever.
Retail will take care of itself. It's fine. I
feel like Thanksgiving, aside from Christmas, is probably one of the booziest holidays.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Nobody wants to be sober with their family.
Oh, yeah. No. Because this is like it's not even a 1-2 punch. It's a 3 punch because I got like Halloween, Thanksgiving, and then Christmas. And it's just, It all kind of bleeds into each other. And
well, because they're each a month apart from each other. So, like, you don't even get a breather. You're just like, this month, next month, this month.
The marathon, not a sprint.
Indeed.
But this week has me on like a 7-day week. So I'm just like, all right, let's go. Let's do this. This is all the worst possible timing because my liquor manager is also retiring this week. So, and they're not. This is corporate America at its finest. Not filling that role.
Oh, lovely.
We have no plans to replace him.
That's fine. You didn't need a liquor manager.
I don't need. Yeah, skeleton crew. I can do this. I'm so fucked.
You're like, you know what? I just give up.
I give up.
Man, I do not miss that about working those kinds of jobs.
Sure, everyone else in the department is over 50 years old. It's whatever. Fine.
I used to work in childcare, and like they were like, "Oh, your state ratio is 4 children to 1 adult. You only have 4 children in your room at any point in time. You don't need a second person in there." And I'm like, "But they're babies."
That doesn't feel.
I have 2 arms, therefore I should only have 2 children under my care at any time. And they're like, no, but the state says 4. And I'm like, well, the state can go fuck themselves.
The state can't go fuck themselves. Something I say on a regular basis.
But yeah, like I used to work a lot of jobs where they were like, oh, well, we don't want to pay to hire someone else. You can do it just fine by yourself. It's fine. I believe in you. And then they wonder why I had a mental breakdown.
Right, right. So on that note, let's jump into the news. So the main piece of news, and the obvious piece of news, aside from all of the everything that's happening right now globally, we got an update on the SAG-AFTRA strike, where SAG met with the AMPTP for what can only be described as a long negotiation process that eventually ended up nowhere.
Yep.
With the AMPTP refusing SAG's demands of a whopping 2% of revenue.
Yeah.
Which apparently 2% is AMPTP. They're bleeding money. They can't spare 2%. What are they gonna do? What are they gonna do?
Not have 5 houses to one person.
Yeah. I mean, that's a whole yacht. So negotiations have effectively ceased for now, and they're not expecting to rejoin anytime soon. So this is a strike that could continue on into the end of the year, conceivably, and into next year, which is a very weird counter to last week, where we were very hopeful, and that hope has now sailed into the ground and died.
It's just amazing to me that they were willing to go to the table for the writers and make concessions for the writers to meet demands. And with the actors, they're like, no, we've given all our goodwill this year. Bye.
It's almost like when they dealt with the writers, it was like, we can't fool the writers because those are nerds.
Mm-hmm.
And they know things. But SAG, those dummy dum-dums, we can trick them all day long.
Are you sure about that?
Yeah.
Because I'm pretty sure you guys are underestimating Fran Drescher. Like,
Right. Yeah.
that woman does not back down.
But I think there is that perception of like,
Yeah.
those people just do whatever's written down in front of them. They're stupid.
Which, to be fair, some actors might fall into the category of not necessarily dumb, but like definitely not well versed on what they should know with regards to contracts.
Right.
But the people that AMPTP is negotiating with are not in that category.
Right.
They are
yes.
in the category of we know our shit.
For now, the strike is continuing. But in other news, we did see like what I feel like is the first kind of pivot post WGA deal, with Disney deciding that guys, they need to start making actual TV over there. So news broke this week that Disney and Marvel are scrapping a lot of what has already been developed in their upcoming Daredevil TV series, which up to this point has reportedly been more or less a legal drama, with Matt Murdock not even getting into his Daredevil costume until episode 4. And there's been a lot of rejiggering being done now of rewriting it and bringing on a actual showrunner, and somebody who will have a show Bible and an actual pilot.
Which, that news, like them being like, well, just in case you guys didn't know, for the last so many years, we haven't been writing our Marvel says, we haven't been writing our TV shows like typical TV shows. And it's like, everyone that read that article was like, no, we know.
Yeah, we got that part.
We could tell. Like,
that part.
Anybody that saw Secret Invasion could tell.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, that's the most recent one, but like all of them, but yeah.
Yeah, like a lot of the big criticisms that have come against the Marvel TV series are that they are kind of structured as movies,
Yep.
which is very clear that they have been written and developed that way. Even like some of the better ones, such as Miss Marvel or She Hulk, have kind of fallen into movie but make it bigger.
Yeah.
So it is not at all surprising to learn that they did not have really. It's like it's the same kind of like tech innovation strategy of like, oh, we're gonna blow this thing open, we're gonna revolutionize this, and you're just doing the same thing that's already been
Yeah.
done, but in a shittier way.
But good for Disney and Marvel figuring that out though. Good for them.
Yeah, yeah. It is kind of crazy they were just apparently flying off the seat of their pants, though. Like,
When you have an IP like Marvel though, I feel like they automatically just think, "Ah, well, we can just churn out anything and people will go watch it." But now they're realizing that people actually care what's being presented to them, and so they're like, "Oh, we need to actually work at this."
so let's move on into the GOAT. So, the GOAT is a weekly segment we do here on the podcast where myself and Mads nominate a best TV character or episode of all time and pit them against each other in a poll on Twitter and TikTok. Last week, Mads nominated Deputy Jordan Parrish from Teen Wolf, and I nominated Louise Belcher from Bob's Burgers. The universe has decided that I will start winning again, so Louise won.
Mhm.
In that spirit, Mads, you get to go first with your new pick.
All right. So I have been rewatching Doctor Who lately. And I have been reminded of an episode that I really, really love from season 2. Um, and it's one that exists within a very limited location, as opposed to most Doctor Who episodes, which kind of travel around, they go in and out of buildings, like whatever. But this one takes place pretty much primarily in the bedroom of this French young woman. And I'm talking about season 2, episode 4, The Girl in the Fireplace. And it takes place over a series of years, and the doctor keeps popping into her fireplace. And he eventually saves her from, I forget what, off the top of my head, what the creatures are called, but he saves her life. And it shows that even though the doctor is very fleeting in the lives of the people he helps, some of them remember him, especially if he keeps showing up. But it's just a really good episode because it shows the compassion and heart of the doctor and how his presence can change the course of someone's life even without him intending it to. So that is my pick for the GOAT.
Nice. Good pick. So, since we're discussing a Mike Flanagan series this week, I want to go back to a previous Flanagan series, The Haunting of Hill House. And the
Ooh.
episode that broke me as a human being, that I have still not fully recovered from to this date, a full 3 years after I saw it. And that is Haunting of Hill House, Season 1, Episode 5, The Bent Neck Lady.
Yes.
Uh, and this is an episode that follows Nell, played by Victoria Pedretti, which is somehow her first, if not one of her first, acting performances that wounds me on a deeply, deep and personal level,
Mhm.
and follows her as we see the final days of her life, seeing her get married and lose her husband in a tragic way. Continue to be haunted by this specter that has haunted her ever since she was a child, called the Bent Neck Lady. Um, and her kind of obsession towards it, and the way she cannot escape it and keeps being followed by this figure, and it ends. And without giving too much away, it's just a crushing look at that character, and the way that she never really had a chance.
Yeah.
In the most tragic way possible. She was always going to be stuck in her trauma, and the trauma was always going to circle back around to her, and so on and so on. So the story goes. And this episode adds a really interesting wrinkle to ghost lore, which is, what if there was also a timey-wimey element to this, to bring it back to time? What if there was also a kind of, again, a circular nature to the way the hauntings work and the way that people are affected by it? The way that A plus B equals C and also equals A. In just the most devastating way possible. Again, the episode broke me as a person, in the way that only Mike Flanagan truly knows how to do. As I said on Twitter, he is amazing, and he is a menace that must be stopped at all costs.
It is still a moment from television in the last 10 years that lives in my head rent free. Like, that is something that I was not expecting. And I'm decently good at figuring out twists and turns of stuff. And that was something I did not see. And it's one of the reasons I will follow Mike Flanagan into any flames.
Yes, absolutely.
I will watch anything he does.
I was a shell of a person after watching that episode, that I did not watch the rest of the season for like a week. And I was just shell shocked in my house. My sisters were like, what's going on here? And I'm just like, I have experienced something. I've been through something. There was before I watched this episode and after I watched this episode. And there the two shall meet.
Yeah, it's one of the first times you start to see just how talented Mike Flanagan is at creating complex character stories and character studies, and looking at the human condition in the way of, we cause our own fates sometimes because we can't get out of our own heads.
Right.
And we can't get out of our own way.
That episode was the first time that I really sat up and was like, oh, Mike Flanagan is doing things. Like, because before that I was like, he made Oculus and Dr. Death. And I was like, okay. Not Dr. Death, Dr. Sleep. And I'm just like, okay, he's clearly a talented guy, but okay. The Bent Neck Lady was like, oh, he has a vision. The man is really, truly doing things in a way that I was not expecting.
I feel like it'll probably end up being his magnum opus. No questions. Like, like that's the thing he's going to be remembered for.
So that is my pick, The Haunting of Hill House, episode 5, The Bent Neck Lady. So you can vote for these on Twitter and TikTok, and you'll have 2 days to vote once they're up. And be sure to share these on all your social platforms, whatever they may be these days. Let's move on into the rest of our show.
Pray God you can go. I stand outside this woman's work. This woman's word was hard on the man.
So our first show for this week, continuing our Adventure Time rewatch, we have season 4, episode 26, The Lich. Season 5, Episode 1, Finn the Human, and Season 5, Episode 2, Jake the Dog. So let's start with the Lich. Where we meet Bobby, who's voiced by Lou Ferrigno. I think that's right. Hang on.
You're like, wait, I don't remember.
I'm like 95% sure that's right. But I would like to check. Just in case that's not right. It is Ferrigno. Okay. Who's a character we've met once before in an episode that we did not watch, but has been referenced a couple times in kind of the lore of the show. He is the one that in the first episode that we met the Lich, he was the one who formerly owned the glove. The glove that defeated the Lich.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yep.
Because his hands were so big. But we'll meet him again. Yeah, just kind of what a killer twist. What a killer twist at the end there. Going like, oh no, Billy's been dead this entire time. Billy has been dead, and the Lich possessed his body. Have fun with that.
Mm-hmm.
Enjoy, kids.
We don't want to think about that.
We don't want to think about that. But so I do enjoy their kind of journey to get all of the princess's jewels, along with the Ice King's jewels, I guess.
Mm-hmm. I was a little thrown by all that, but whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, and I like kind of the the weird, not quite body horror, but kind of body humor when they get LSB's jewel. And it was so deep inside her head.
Yeah.
Deeply weird.
And I just the fight that Princess Bubblegum puts up when they were like, "Can we have your jewel?" And she's like, "What? No."
No, obviously no. Yeah, and it does continue a theme from this season of maybe Bubble. Hey, how cool is Bubblegum? How on the level is Bubblegum? Because we first see her experimenting with her little.
Yeah, she's like tearing off the limbs of one creature and attaching them to another, and I'm like, "What are you doing?
She
What
is
are
a
you
mad
doing?"
scientist. But she does like. I mean, it's full self defense, but she does go for Finn.
Yeah.
And I do like her excuse of like that was an accident, which is clearly made up on the spot. Like I've seen a lot of discourse online this week of calling bubblegum candy Hitler, which
Mm-hmm.
there's a couple things about bubblegum. Is she a tyrant? Yes, absolutely. Is she a sociopath? Probably.
Oh,
Beyond
definitely.
that, no. No. She is ultimately just doing her best. Who's doing her best? You know,
She's
I don't know
trying.
what I'd do if anybody came at me like that.
Listen, at this point in the show, Everyone is flawed, but we still love them.
Yes. Mhm. Yeah, and then you get that reveal of the Lich, and the Lich apparently just employing long cons now.
Mm-hmm.
Which you got, you know what? You have to respect the hustle.
You do, because it could not have been easy to pretend for that long.
No, yeah. But also manipulating Finn into the position of breaking the Enchiridion.
Yeah.
And like looking back on that, Finn and Jake should have known immediately that something was up. The second that they watched the Enchiridion hologram, I'm like, hey, you know, there's a guy who grants wishes in there. Yes, we should put the
Yeah,
Lich
but
there.
yeah, but Finn and Jake are not the brightest bulbs in the bunch,
Right.
okay? I mean, I started to like question things the minute that played, but however, these little children slash dogs do not get it.
Right. Well, it's also the way that like, um, and it's kind of counter programming to what we'll talk about with like Over the Garden Wall. But in this case of like being a kid and an adult you look up to is like, hey, we're gonna do this thing and it's really cool and you shouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna be fine. And then you're a
They
kid, and
take
you're
the
just like,
candy.
okay, yeah,
They take the candy from the adult.
right, yeah, because this is a guy you trust. Um, like this is a guy they both look up to and idolize. So it's like, yeah, why not? Yeah, that sounds great. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so let's take it into Finn the Human, where we meet Prismo the Wishmaster, voiced by Kumail Nanjiani. Oh, it's just so great.
So great. Like, I'm obsessed with this character, and it's not often that we get characters we haven't at least seen before, like in a bigger capacity. So it's like great to have this character, and of course Kumail Nanjiani is one of my favorite people. So
Yeah, and just like
it's just, the
the
voice is just
animation for
so fitting.
Prismo, like pink silhouette on like that yellow wall, it's
Hmm.
just so good. Um,
It's so genius, like, because that's what I mean, if you think about it, that's what a prism does, like, it
mhm,
reflects light and stuff, so, like, ugh,
it's-
genius.
I love it.
But the Finn the human episode.
Finn the Human stealthily answers a bunch of Adventure Time questions. The first of which is, what's the deal with Oo? The deal is we're living in a post-apocalypse. That's what the deal is.
Yes.
Like, it has secretly been a post-apocalypse the entire time.
Yeah.
That was just started by a mutagenic radiation bomb.
Mhm.
Like,
That was and it's, like, frozen over the dead
mhm.
Ice King. And Marceline's this crinkly old lady with a ray gun that does not work on Finn.
Yeah, a ray gun that's just too old. It's just too
It's
old
just too old.
now. No, I love the way that immediately built off of like what like I Remember You, which was just like 2 episodes before this.
Mm-hmm.
Immediately building off of that, where we see a Marceline that's just been with Simon the entire time, and isn't a vampire.
Yeah.
It's just a half demon.
She's just a weird old lady.
She's just a weird old lady with soul sucking powers.
Yeah. And Finn's for some reason has a robotic arm,
Yeah,
BD.
I'm sure that won't come up again.
I'm sure it won't come up.
That won't come up again.
No need. There's no need to explain it.
Something to
That can be taken off and turned into a weapon should he choose. Because, I
Mhm.
mean, it's post apocalyptic. Of course that happens.
Right. Yeah. Yep.
But honestly, I loved it. I love that the crown was still like a thing. Like it having powers and the, the dangers that it has in the normal Adventure Time world still exists in this reality.
Mhm.
Um, and Finn has to take it back from this gang to save his family.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
And
and
he doesn't
also
succeed.
like the crown being an actual entity, like a thing
Hmm.
that has a personality.
Yeah.
Um, that kind of got fucked over by a bomb, and it was like, I don't like this.
Yeah.
um, yeah, it's kind of a it's a crazy episode. That just blows open its mythology wide.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of insane looking back on it because it's just like this just gave everything.
Yeah. And I actually enjoyed it because it was, kind of different from the normal. And so it was nice to like see these same characters in a different setting.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, yeah. Um,
And Finn actually get to be a hero.
right. Yes.
That he's like, "Oh, I have a mom and a dad and a baby something." Eh,
Oh, I love the baby sibling line of like, we don't really want to guess what the and put this into like words that could be translated into Adventure Time proper. So it's just baby sibling, whatever.
baby sibling. Finn, you have to save us and the baby.
Uh,
And he tries. He sort of
he
succeeds. I
does my
mean,
best.
in his own way. They are still alive. Their house and the village, however, that's a different story.
Right, right. Um,
We don't need to worry about it.
yeah, yeah. And then that takes it into Jake the dog, um, who's just kind of sitting back and like, well, I'm gonna see how this goes.
He's watching it on mute. Like that's the even better part. Like he's like, I don't need to know what they're talking about. I'm just gonna watch. And Prism's like, don't you think you should be doing something about this? Like, come on, bro. And the owl is just like, yeah, like we can do anything about
You
this?
can do anything about this? It's so crazy to bring in the Cosmic Owl. Um, like say it's actually insane to bring in the Cosmic Owl because he's a character who, literal to his name, has just been coming into people's dreams, and whenever he shows up, like we saw him in The Lich,
Mm-hmm.
like
Yep.
whenever he shows up, it's deeply prophetic and like shit's about to go down in like your real life.
Yeah, like everyone in the Lich was like, oh, the cosmic owl was there? Oh shit.
Yeah, like it's a big deal when the Cosmic Owl shows up in your dreams. So for the Cosmic Owl to just be here chilling, is insane.
That's like a breaking of the third wall or something like that.
Right? Yeah. It's
Um
meeting something you were not meant to meet. Um,
and they're all in like a bubble bath thing together and I'm like, what is going on here? This is very typical of Jake. Like
right? No, because Jake is like so weirdly charismatic. Um, that he's able to just make friends with people.
yes.
Um, so he's just now like best friends with a cosmic wishmaster.
I mean, who wouldn't be?
To the extent that like Prismo actually helps him create like the perfect wish.
Yeah. Prismo's like, all right, I'm not supposed to do this, but like, here's some help with what you're supposed to say. Cause I have a thing where I like to fuck up what you say and make it my own way. Which is very like a Kumail Nanjiani character kind of thing, because his character in Obi-Wan Kenobi did something kind of like that as well.
Right.
Like I feel like that's just something his characters tend to do. Maybe it's a character trait of him himself. Like he's just like, "Oh, you say something to me, I'm going to twist that around in my own way." I feel like that probably is a character trait of Kamal.
Probably. uh, but it is funny just watching how like everything is going sideways in Farm World, and Jake's just like,
This is
"I like a
fun.
sandwich. Sandwich would be good."
But then I like that the way to get around it is just to have him wish that when the Lich comes to ask for his wish, he wishes for the safety and good health of Finn and Jake.
Yes.
And then you see the Lich do it, and he's like, "Wait, that's not what I was gonna wish
That's
for."
all right. It's such a funny moment because so rarely in the show do you see like the Lich off balance,
Yeah.
and it's like a moment of like, wait, that's all right. It's so good.
It's hilarious.
Yes. Um, so next week, um, we have season 5, episode 5, All the Little People. Season 5, episode 6, Jake the Dad. And
Ooh.
episode 11, Bad Little Boy. Um, so I'm gonna say this right now. So in season 5, I'm gonna keep this as vague as I can. There are 2 things that Finn does that are some of the worst things that he ever does on the show. Next week is going to be the first of these.
Okay.
So
Interesting. I'm intrigued.
intrigued, yes.
And then I'll probably be mad.
So our next show, we are concluding Over the Garden Wall with episode 8, Babes in the Woods, episode 9, Into the Unknown, and episode 10, The Unknown. So let's start with Babes in the Woods, which is just Greg having time. He's just it's a very like kind of 30s Wizard of Oz by way of like the weird animation of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very off-putting a little bit, but also extremely Greg.
It actually made me think that they were going to steal his soul.
Yeah.
Like I was like, these are soul stealing creatures. I don't trust any of this at all. Like that giraffe's neck, what is going on with that? Like it was just all very like unsettling.
Yes.
It was a very unsettling episode.
Yeah, it's
And
just
then it
weird
got
across the
sad.
board. Yeah.
And then it got sad. And I was like, oh, Greg.
Greg.
Like he just wants to be a leader and he wants Wirt to be happy, and he wants, he just wants to be able to be himself and to Wirt not hate him for it. And he just can't seem to succeed. Poor guy. He's a typical like 5 or 6-year-old. Like he just wants to have fun and go frog hunting. He wants work to love him. Yeah. He wants work to love him. Mhm. Yeah, cuz then like he at the end when he like realizes that like he has a choice he needs to make and work doesn't get to be part of that choice, like it really hits him. He's like, "Oh, I didn't this isn't good for work or me." Like cuz he doesn't want it if he can't have it with Wirt. And it's like, "Oh, that's so cute." It also explains why they're dressed the way they're dressed. Because it's Halloween and Greg was trying to be an elephant and Wirt was, I guess, a gnome. Sure. Hmm. Like they intentionally went. It felt like they intentionally went into the woods or whatever, and now we find out that no, actually, they didn't. Hmm. Yeah, but it also kind of like based on where they end up at the end of the episode, you're like, is any of this real? Um, or is this all in their head? Because we've yeah. I enjoyed getting that context also of like who they are outside of the story of this show, like who they were prior to being lost. And like the guy that Wirt thinks is his competition against for Sarah's affections. It's just like, sir, that man has you have nothing. He has nothing on you. Like she doesn't want anything to do with this guy. He has -5 game. You at least have 0 game. And the fact that his name is the one that Wirt gives to Greg for the frog. And then that guy's like, "Our frog?" And Greg's like, "No. Um that is mine and Wirt's frog." And like the fact that Wirt sees him interact with people and sees the people laughing, he thinks they're laughing with him instead of at him. And so he's like, "Oh man, everybody loves this guy." And I'm like, "Bro, nobody likes this guy." Poor Wirt. Like I like he's it's true. Which is which is why it's even better that Elijah Wood voices him because Elijah Wood's like practically a nerd. He's such a nerd and he's like the size of a 14-year-old, so it's fine. Hmm. No, that's not true. I'm gonna go do the opposite. Yeah, like the way works, like, are we sure that she's actually in that light, or did he just tell you she's in that light? Because I think we can blow the light out and he has no leg to stand on. Like, and your daughter will be fine. Like, and it's also like a confidence that we haven't seen from Wirt yet. Like, it's interesting to see him be so bold against the beast. Mhm. That's dumb. Mhm. Exactly. Yeah. And he's manipulative in a way that's, like, terrifying. You're like, "Oh, yeah, I'll do exactly what you say because I don't wanna find out what happens if I say no." Mhm. Right. It's also Mhm. It's also where a lot of, urban legends come from, like, people just using fear to manipulate others into not doing something or doing something. Um, and I remember an episode of Supernatural kinda, like, faced that, where they're like, people's words and their fears feed this spirit entity, and it changes based on the fear of the people that are thinking about this entity. And I was like, it's hard to defeat the power of thought. Um, and so, yeah, so this episode kind of like reminded me of that, um, from a show that I really, really try to forget. Um, mhm. Mhm. Yep. The power of suggestion. Mhm. Yep. Yeah. Hmm. It's just as terrifying. But I also like that it went back and was like, okay, and the frog sings a song and it goes back and tells how everything ended up for everybody. And it was really sweet to see Beatrice's family back to being humans. You know, all these kooky characters we met along the way, and it was cute to see an alternative for them. Or yeah, but a cat came out of the head of the pumpkin people. So really, was it cats all along? Who's to say? But yeah, it was a good ending. I now understand why people watch it during spooky season, because I'm like, oh, it is based on a Halloween night. Um, that makes sense.
So let's move on. We are previewing The Fall of the House of Usher, which was just released on Netflix. I have watched 3 episodes. I believe you
Hmm.
have watched 5.
I've watched 5,
Excellent.
and it is Mike Flanagan's last
Netflix.
series from his contract with Netflix.
Yes.
So
Yeah, because after the Midnight Club was canceled,
yeah,
he switched from Netflix to Amazon Prime,
yep.
um, which may have been canceled at this point, actually. His overall deal with Amazon Prime may have been canceled. I'm not sure.
I can't remember. I don't
I can't
know.
remember if he was one of those names that was listed when a
I
bunch.
thought I read something recently that still mentioned it, so maybe not. I don't know though. Who knows?
Let's hope so.
But one of the great things about what I've seen so far of this show is it has a lot of the Flanagan mainstays, and there's also like a mixture of a few new people as well, but those people that always crop up in Flanagan shows, and it's always nice to see that.
Right, it's like Mike Flanagan's greatest hits with actors. It's
Yes.
almost like his dream cast. Like I feel like the only one missing here is like Victoria Pedretti.
Yeah.
Um,
But like my favorite is Raul Coley. I absolutely adore him. And I love getting to see what Mike situations Mike puts him in. Um, and for this show, man, he's just like, oh, what is Raul Coley like in real life? He likes to play video games. All right, I'm gonna make him a rich, spoiled boy who makes video games. Or I should say throws money at people who make video games for him
mhm.
and he puts his name on them. Like
Yeah, yeah. No, for me, my MVPs are Carla Gugino because obviously,
she's great too.
and Kate Siegel, who I am not joking when I say has literally never looked better in anything I've seen her in. She looks fucking incredible in this, and
Who is she in this?
Camille,
Oh, yes. She is stunning.
and
And her character's no bullshit attitude
mhm,
is so hot. I'm
yeah,
just going to say that right now.
yeah, and she's married to Mike Flanagan in real life, which is even funnier.
Yep.
But God, yeah, she's just a force of nature in every way. Just looks fucking outstanding. Um, but so anyway, The Fall of the House of Usher is an adaptation of Edgar Allan Poe's work under the same name of Fall of the House of Usher, but it is also a broader adaptation of Poe's work.
His greatest hits, basically.
Yeah, it's all
Hmm.
that
It's
kind of
all like
convinced.
intermingled, and it's great.
Yeah, like the second episode entitled
The Mask of the Red
yeah,
Death.
Mask of the Red Death is a weird kind of adaptation of Poe's story there of um
For those not familiar with Poe, that short story was about a king, I believe, or maybe it was a prince. Whatever. Somebody high up and important decided to throw a party during the plague and invited all these people to his house, and everybody died.
yes. And the moral of that story being not even wealth and power can save you from death.
Yep.
Can not even save you from your doom. And may in fact actually be the cause of your doom.
And I feel, and the other thing that feeds into that is the character's name from that short story was named
Yes.
Prospero, and that's the name of the kid who throws the stupid party in that episode.
Yeah, yeah.
It's definitely really good modernizations of classic stories and poems that we've been reading throughout our foray into education system English classes, because Poe is used multiple times across, decades of education.
Yeah, like even like episode 3 has a reference to Castle and Montiato
Mhm.
of one of the characters describing it in graphic detail.
But also, like, the first episode is called A Midnight Dreary, and if you
Right.
remember, there's the line, once upon a midnight dreary, as I pondered weak and weary. Like, this man, Roderick Usher, is telling the story of what's happened to his family over these past few weeks, and he's confessing, but he's also, you can tell he's run ragged, he's exhausted, he's at the end of his rope. And so, like, it felt like a major calling to that, to that
Mhm.
body of work from Poe as well.
Yeah, and I really like the beginning of the series, like very explicitly stating that most of the cast is dead.
Yep.
So it is more, it is less a who will die than a
How
how
will they
will they
die?
die, and in what
And they
way.
each die in intricately interesting ways.
Yeah, yeah. But also, in what way will they bring this death upon themselves?
Yes, exactly. Because, like we said earlier, Mike Flanagan is very good at honing in on the human condition and seeing how it is that we fuck up our own lives, basically.
Yeah.
That we cannot escape our own destiny, no matter how much wealth, power, influence, technology, it doesn't matter. If you have a certain destiny, it's going to happen.
Yes.
And I feel like that's the purpose of the character of Verna, because she shows up in everyone's story,
Mhm.
in various ways.
Yeah. Yeah.
It also kind of shows that everyone in the family is kind of fucking nuts. They're just crazy.
Yeah. Well, they're insane and
They're
they're
just
evil. Like
crazy.
they are a personification of essentially everything that's wrong with our country at the moment.
Hmm. Yeah.
From pharmaceuticals to PR to very like try hard hedonism. Um,
And, like, Perry, who is the youngest, he's like 20 something. He's the epitome of a spoiled rich kid who is TikTok famous. Like, he's just like, "Oh, I have an influencer status. I'm going to throw a party in a condemned building and think this is okay and it's going to be safe."
right. Yeah.
um but yeah. Uh, Honestly, the note I took when I was like first started watching this, and you're learning about Roderick and Madeline Usher, and I literally put in my notes the Sacklers, because the Sacklers are a famous family in the pharmaceutical world that created the opioid crisis. And that's exactly what the Ushers have done in this universe.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, it's great. And I love Willa Fitzgerald as an actress,
Oh,
and her playing young Madeline. Oh, so
that
good.
is so good. Like
So fucking good.
she is just so vile.
There's a moment in the either fourth or fifth episode where she goes to Roderick's boss in the like early 80s, late 70s, and sits down with him and is like, so I know computers, and like she's like trying to convince him to computerize everything, and he's like, well, basically comes on to her and offers sex, and she turns him down, and she basically lets him have it about the fact that he was willing to listen to her when she was an object of his affection, and when she turned him down he was like, no, you're still a stupid girl. And she's just like, but I actually know what I'm doing. Like she's just so slimy in her own way, but not in a creepy way. Like
Right.
it's very, just like Camille, it's very hot. Like it's just like, oh,
Oh, yeah.
Madeline, I bow down to you. You are a strong, fierce female in a time when females were not paid attention to.
Mhm. But again, she's also insane. Because she's going on
She's
about
so
like
insane.
she's going on about like artificial intelligence and uh as by way of like immortality, which is it really says the quiet part out loud of these people just want this for vanity and ego.
I don't. Well, in that same episode, she gets the thing from ancient Egypt, the brain hook or whatever, and I'm like, girl, you are fucking
You're
nuts.
insane.
You are insane. But it's great. This whole family is crazy in their own unique ways.
Yeah. Bruce Greenwood is also great. And what
Fantastic.
I have been told is a role that was emergency reshot.
Oh,
Like he was, from what I understand, Frank Langella was supposed to play the role of Roderick,
okay.
and then he was accused of sexual harassment on the set. I think, among other places, and so he was fired. Bruce Greenwood was brought in at like the last second, and so everything that we see of Bruce Greenwood in the show is done on like the fly,
Dude, that's amazing.
especially in like the third episode. Bruce Greenwood has this amazing monologue about lemons,
Yes. Yep.
and this twist on like if life gives you lemons, make lemonade, and it's great. And I can't believe that he had more than more than whatever time they had to do this. Like it's really like it is an inspired performance. Although it is perhaps the first time that I've really looked at Bruce Greenwood and thought this guy is old. It was the first time that I really considered Bruce Greenwood as like a 70-year-old man who is currently 67.
Yeah.
Um,
Well.
because he's almost like quantum locked as Captain Pike in the Star Trek movies.
Well, yeah, of course. But he's great. He's phenomenal, and you get this sense that at one point in his life, he probably had some decency and goodness in him, and life just made him crazy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. The thing I also like about this series is it harkens back to Haunting of Hill House, where
Mhm.
it forces you to examine the foreground
Yeah.
to make you think: is somebody gonna move in the background? Is somebody like there was a moment in the first episode where Roderick tells Carl Lumbly that there's somebody behind him. And I had noticed this, and I was like, I was staring for a second. I was like, can I see anybody? Can I see anybody? And then the figure moved after like a minute, and I was like, oh.
As the series goes on and as his conversation with Auguste Dupin continues, you see him react to things in the foreground more and more.
Right.
And that's how you're starting to realize, oh, he's seeing shit. Like, he's full on cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Like, he's seeing things that aren't there. He's hearing things that aren't there. And it's really feeding into his need to confess.
Right.
Because as Dupin points out, like, some of these deaths were not intentional, so to speak. They were not, they weren't murders. They were accidents or tragedies, and yet he's taking the blame for all of them. And as you go along, you're slowly starting to realize, oh, this is why. So yeah, it becomes more and more apparent. And it feels like at the beginning of the episode you start to see, okay, who is going to be central, who's going to die in this episode, because it's determined by what he sees in the foreground.
Right.
And all of the dead bodies have these bright blue eyes. All of them. Which is unsettling.
Yeah.
To say the least.
Yeah.
The other thing that I noted about these episodes, at least especially the first 3, is that none of these Usher children have what anyone would call normal sex lives.
No.
No. None of them have a normal sex life. They're all fucked up. I think the crazy weirdest one is Tammy's.
Yeah.
It's also kind of sad. I don't know. I feel kind of sad about Tammy, but not too much, because I don't have too much sympathy for really any of these characters, but
no. Mm-mm.
And you're not supposed to.
Yeah. Camille's is the one where I go, you might actually be breaking a law right now.
Oh, she definitely breaks laws.
Her sex life is the one where I'm like, you're definitely not supposed to be doing this. The others are like questionably morality wise, like maybe don't do that. Hers is like, you definitely should not be doing this.
Also, we have not touched on this yet, but Arthur Pym has to be the most shadiest lawyer I have ever met in my life, but also that's the guy I want on my side if I were to ever do anything extremely illegal.
Right, yeah.
Mark Hamill, you can defend my life, thank you. But the voice he uses for this character too, it's just like, it's unsettling. Like, I hear Pym talk and I'm just like, shut up, stop talking. I don't need to hear that voice.
Right, and it's definitely Hamill drawing on like more of his like animation voices that he does, like
Yep,
more akin to like Joker or something.
Larger than life, yeah. Definitely. But
yeah, we will touch more on this next week. So let's continue on into Our Flag Means Death, Season 2, Episode 1 through 5. Fuck you, Max. You stupid motherfuckers.
I mean, we can do all 5.
I guess
yeah,
we can do all 5, because who cares?
Might as well.
What does anything matter anymore? Okay, here's the thing. I can understand releasing all 3 episodes at once, because that's kind of industry standard for streaming shows that you want to eventually release weekly. Okay, fine, I get that. I don't love that, but I get it. I wish you wouldn't do that.
Or even just 2. Like, they could have done just 2
Yeah.
on that first week.
But I'm understanding of it. The decision to then release episodes 2 weekly is absurd. Is stupid. What the fuck are you doing, Max?
Especially because we only get 8 total, so that means we have 1 week with 3, 2 weeks with 2, and then we have the final week, which is just 1 episode, and we're like, we're done within the span of 4 weeks?
Like,
That's stupid.
how is this?
We waited a year and a half for this? No, thank you.
How is this one of the biggest shows of the year that we are going to talk about for 3 episodes?
Yeah.
Like, how did that happen? How did this happen?
Also, how is it that last season proved themselves, garnering them getting a second season, and they got less episodes?
It's insane.
I'm like, you guys are freaking nuts.
I'm,
But then again, Max has never been really good about promoting this show, caring about this show. They expected the fans to do all the work, and we have. We have done it. We made sure people knew about this show. But yeah, it's also, I'm going to tell you right now, writing a review for 3 episodes was so hard to do, a combined review for 3 episodes. Because I'm like, there's so much I want to talk about. And then I was like, I could have split it up, but then I'm like, now I would have to write 3 reviews for 1 week. And I'm like, I'm not doing that. So I did 1 really long review for the 3 episodes.
right.
But
Anyway,
but yeah.
So I caught up on this over the week. I have to say, out of the gate, favorite character, which may surprise no one, is Jim.
Of course.
I love Jim. They're great.
Jim's great.
I love that knife throwing maniac.
Absolutely. And we'll saw off a leg.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I'm going to put it out there, surprising no one. Favorite character has been since season 1, Lucius Spriggs. And this season, his traumatized, sarcastic ass has me hook, line, and sinker.
Mhm.
He is so traumatized and so bitchy. I love it. And like in episode 5, when he approaches, when he's talking to Blackbeard, and he's like, well, do you want to just shove me off the ship? Would that make you feel better? And Lucius is like, actually, I think it would. And so he just does it.
Yeah.
And then he's like, damn it didn't make me feel better. But yeah, I love Lucius a lot. And I also like that we've gotten a couple new characters this season. However short-lived they are. They're fun and chaotic in their own way.
Yes. So my thoughts on this are, I think the first 2 episodes ramped up too high.
Mm-hmm.
And then it somehow had to come down from that. And there's no way to really come down from that and still maintain the status quo of the show.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think it has navigated that as seamlessly as I think it wants to. But it's fine.
My main issue with it, which I still think the episodes are really, really great. I've given them high marks all the way through. But my main issue with it is that, okay, they've opened this door about communication and healing and things, but they're still forgetting to like have, and yes, Steed and Ed had a conversation about Steed walking away and abandoning Ed, but like they don't talk about the full issue. Like Steed was stolen And then he went home because he was traumatized by being stolen from one of the Chaunceys.
Mhm.
And he didn't say anything about that to Ed. And I'm like, why aren't you telling Ed? Like, I'm just like, this, you guys are wanting to have open communication and you're not telling him the biggest part of your story here. Like, you're just letting him believe that you left him for a woman. Like, what? Like, that's something. But also, there's other like storylines that I'm like, I feel like they rush through it. They're not giving it the oomph it deserves. And they're trying to do a lot. And I love them for it. But they're also trying to do too much.
Right, right. Yeah, and they're also trying to like character rehabilitate Izzy Hands, and it's like this works. It shouldn't work because I don't feel like you've
It
done.
works.
Yeah, I'm not sure that you've done the work necessary for this show, but um, I guess if you mutilate a character, then it just is okay.
I, yeah, I feel like they didn't explain enough about the interim period between seasons 1 and 2,
Mhm.
how that changed the dynamic for Jim, Frenchie, and Fang with regards to Izzy, because they all come into season 2 defending Izzy. So it's like they've missed the mark on explaining that to us.
Right. That aside, greatly enjoying Izzy Hands this season. As as Katie Wright from Vulture put it, Izzy is constantly wet. He is just a sad little wet man for no reason, and it's great.
I'm not a Izzy Hands fan. I don't hate him, and I hate him and I dislike him a little less because of this season. Um, but I'm kind of like about all the stuff we get with Izzy, because I'm just like, whatever, it is what it is. I'm not a huge fan of him, but I don't hate him to the point of get him off my screen. Like, there was someone on Twitter that when they were watching episode 4, I believe it was, or maybe 3, they were like, why don't they just kill Izzy? He's being pathetically obnoxious. And I'm just like, what? I don't hate him that much. Like, I would never wish death upon him.
Right,
He's just as traumatized and damaged as the rest of these guys. Like, come on. Like, even more so because he was in love with Ed.
right.
And Ed destroyed him
Yeah.
mentally and physically.
Uh, episode 5 is the most I've liked Izzy so far.
Yeah.
Mainly because he's just kind of like in the background more or less, and just just kind of going like thumbs up at Steed for most of the episode, and just like magically appearing in rooms. Like that's just it's good.
Mhm.
It's good. It works.
It's also great because it shows growth for Steed and Izzy, that Steed goes to Izzy and he's like, I need some pointers. Because Steed and Izzy did not get along at all in season 1. So it shows that Steed is like, okay, part of being a captain means I have to talk to people I don't like. Like, you can tell Steed still doesn't really like Izzy, but he tolerates him now.
Right.
And the help that Izzy gives Lucius is also great to see, considering their dynamic the last time we saw them together. um he's saying to Lucius, he's like, yeah, you can sit there and wallow in your revenge plots against Blackbeard because he hurt you, or I don't know, you could just get over it. He's like, just go on living. Bye. Basically, he calls him a pathetic little man without saying he's a pathetic little man.
Right, right. And it is really funny for Izzy to say that his leg got eaten by a shark. Like,
Yeah.
it's very good.
And the moment where the crew gets together and cuts and takes one of the unicorn legs and makes it into a leg for Izzy and said, for our unicorn, like, it's just cute. It's like, all right, they accept him into their community now.
It works.
Let's move on.
It works, yeah. Also, I really love the polycule that's going on between Jim and
Yes.
Olu and Archie. Like, it's just really good.
Yes. And if if Zhang ever comes back, then it's going to be added. She's going to be added
Yeah.
in because she likes Olu. Olu likes her. You know, I don't know how she'll feel about Olu if she ever comes back into the picture, considering how they left things.
No, it's definitely that Parks and Rec joke with April. They're like, he's my boyfriend. He's his boyfriend. I hate him. He loves him. I love him.
Yeah. um but I really do like Archie, and I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about Archie being added in and them taking Ivan out. Um and mostly because I knew the story behind why that actor had been let go from the show. And I was kind of upset about it because he was being very vocal politically about stuff,
Mm.
and mostly about Palestine. And so they were like, we're not going to ask you back for season 2.
Ah.
Yeah. So, but, and then they were just like, oh yeah, Ivan died. And I'm just like,
Okay.
But where did Archie come from? Archie just appeared. It's fine.
Archie's pretty seamless, so.
I will say one of the biggest fan theories about what happens to Lucius after he falls off after he's shoved off the boat by Blackbeard is that he gets rescued by a ship of lesbian pirates, which was not that far off the mark.
No, not really.
It was a ship of female pirates. I'm not sure how many of them were lesbians, but we'll say there's got to be at least 1 or 2 in there.
Speaking of which, episode 4 with and Bonnie and Mary Reed, great, absolutely great. No notes, just perfect.
So good. And the fact that they were like, we're a healthy relationship, and Ed and Steve just looked at them like, are you sure about that? Because you tried to poison her and you stabbed her. Like,
it's one of the funniest depictions of a lesbian relationship I've ever seen, because it's showing lesbians growing into a mature age,
yes,
and surviving, and also someone that you've been with for so long and you just fucking hate them now. You want them to die.
but also you get bored easily, so you have to spice things up because you're like, damn, I've been with you for 20 years. We need to do something new.
Right.
So, like,
this person that you are deeply still in love with, but also you want them to shut the fuck up and just die already.
right. And a friend of mine who is a lesbian was like, I don't know how I feel about this being our lesbian representation. I'm like, no, take it. Like, you have to look at it from the perspective that these are lesbian pirates. So they're not going to be typical average lesbians. They're going to be violent lesbians.
Right. Well, like, I always love the joke of like gay relationships are healthier than like straight relationships, and like we don't really experience like the kind of vitriol that straight couples do for their partners.
Mm-hmm.
I worked with a guy like last year before, who was in his 60s, gay, been married for fucking decades, deeply despised his husband. Fucking hated his husband. Each and every day he would leave work and he'd go, all right, time to go see my dumbass husband. Every day he'd be like, oh, fuckhead wants me to pick up some vodka.
Yeah. Honestly, this show, it just does a lot of good things for older queers. And that's the thing that, like, during the year and a half that we had to wait between seasons 1 and 2, people got into discourses on Twitter, which, as we all know, Twitter is not the place for nuance. And so, like, younger fans would be, like, all pissy because we were upset that their show, Heartstopper, or whatever young queer show, got like new seasons within a year and a half of us like waiting for our second season. And we're like, go sit down. This is not the show for you. This is for older queers. This show is for the older queers.
Right.
I mean, it is for everybody, but really it was for the older queers. Like, we're the ones that need to see representation that goes beyond high school.
Right.
Like, and I love that about this show. And I love that, especially in like season 1 where like Lucius talks about sketching other people and like Izzy's like trying to blackmail him with it. He's like, well, does Pete know about it? And he goes, hold on, Pete, I sketched Fang. And he goes, oh my God, did you do him naked? Like, he didn't care. He was just like, okay, that's fine, whatever. It's good. It's a good representation of people that aren't in monogamous relationships, people that don't have jealousy if their partner looks at somebody else, people that are in crazy, ridiculous relationships, but they're probably the healthiest thing that anybody's ever seen. It's so great to see. And it's all body types and all genders and all, um, backgrounds and things like that. But I personally loved episode 5. I think it's the best one of this season. Might be of the whole series, because of the Izzy stuff, but also because of the Pete and Lucius stuff.
Right.
Because Lou Pete are my OTP from this show. Like, I love them to death. And Matthew Mayer's performance in this episode is so phenomenal. The way he handles Lucius and his trauma is so loving and understanding, but he's also giving him a kick in the butt at the same time. He's like, I love you. I understand you've been through some shit, but like putting Blackbeard's or putting my head on Blackbeard's body and Blackbeard's head on my body, like, that's weird, dude. Like, please stop. Like, it's weird. He's like, come find me when you decided to put me first. And it's just like, all right, it's cute, it's wonderful. But like, there's also that emotionality that he's like, I love you to death and I want you to be happy and healthy. And I will respect you and stand by you, but I can't stand too closely to you right now because you're driving me insane.
Right.
And then at the end, they both decide to get engaged. And it's the cutest thing. It was not the engagement I was expecting to see this season. But it is what it is.
Right.
The other fun things about this show, Buttons self-actualizing into a bird.
I can't believe I almost forgot about Buttons turning into a one.
And the Swede becoming one of Jackie's husbands.
Like episode 4 really did have it all. It had lesbian pirates, and it had lesbian MILF pirates, and it had Buttons turning into a bird. Like, I don't know what more I can expect from TV.
Which it allowed Ed to realize that he can change and love who he is. And he can be a better person. And he's just like, wait a minute. Buttons turned into a bird. And then he happily runs off to Steed. And he goes, Steed, Buttons turned into a bird. And then the next episode, you hear him telling the rest of the crew. And Roach is just like, is that what we're going with? Because nobody trusts that he didn't kill him.
Like, I love that no one believes he turned into a bird.
They're like, you're Blackbeard and you've been on a murderous rampage for the last so many months. I believe more that you killed him than he became a bird. I love it. It's great. Great. Also, Frenchie's peanut allergy. and Roach might have invented peanut butter.
No, I will say I did really love episode 5, Jim going like full Catholic Spaniard.
And it's a great parallel to season 1 where Jim was like trying to get everyone away from believing in superstitions and being like, the Jim stuff is stupid. Like, just stop. And then there's this episode and Jim is just fully committing to that jacket is cursed because that Catholic man on that boat said it was. And then you see the next scene, you see them, Archie and Olu wearing necklaces of garlic.
Vico Ortiz is just so great in that episode of just like kind of like there's a shot of them like peering out of the doorway backwards and just looking at Steed. And it's just the physical language that they use is so good.
I'm also glad that the show decided to allow Vico to use their natural hair this season because it's gorgeous.
Yeah. It looks so
But yeah, that's, I mean, in a nutshell, that is the first five,
the first 5 episodes.
which is over half of the season.
Yeah. Fucking absurd. Let's move on to our next show. Loki season 2, episodes 1 and 2, Ouroboros and Breaking Brad. And this is fine. A lot of people are kind of aghast at some of like the more sci-fi timey-wimey stuff, but I've watched too much Doctor Who to be fazed by this bullshit.
Also, we're at the point in Marvel where they have multiple timelines. Like, why is this surprising people?
I'm not fazed by this. Yeah, it's fine.
It's okay.
Yeah. Hiddleston and Owen Wilson have still good chemistry together. They still work in their scenes together.
I get gay vibes. I never watched season 1, so I was just like, oh, they're giving me gay vibes.
That is the appropriate response to have.
Okay, good to know.
Or it is not the inappropriate response to have, I should say.
Because the amount of concern that Mobius kept having for Loki appearing and disappearing and appearing and looking, he's like, you seem to be in pain. And I'm just like, sir, I feel like you shouldn't care that much about what's going on with Loki. Like,
yeah. It is a little bit concerning. They apparently have no plans to do anything with Jonathan Majors going forward to this because he is a major part of the show and its mythology.
Yeah, but
You just gotta keep on marching. Also, Ikwe Kwan is great in the show.
I love him. He's adorable.
As OB, I love him. He's a great addition to the season.
I love where they're like, yeah, he seems to be time surfing. He goes, you can't do that in the TVA. And he's like, oh, wait. Maybe you can.
You can do that.
I don't know anything.
Yeah. It's really good.
I like the way they handled the dual conversations when Loki gets pulled back in time mid-conversation.
Next
and they handled it really well, I think.
I saw her in the previews, so.
Where Obi's talking to both Loki and Mobius at the same time. But in different times. I've never been a diehard Loki fan. I mean, I like him okay, but it wasn't enough for me to be convinced to watch the first season, which is why I'm going into season 2 having not watched season 1. But I feel like I got enough vibes from a few things I saw on Twitter when season 1 aired, and also the recap that played at the beginning of the first episode of season 2. You know what was going on. I was like, oh, okay, we've got multiple timelines, and it's and it's kind of getting out of control, and they don't know what to do with themselves. Like, sounds about right for a Marvel problem. So, yes. It was so, oh my God, I was so emotional. And I was like, I don't know who this character is. Cause again, this is my first foray into Bob's Burgers. So, like, I'm learning as I go here. And I'm like, this kid is making me feel things. And then Louise and her wisdom, I just, ugh, I love her. Yeah. Hmm. Every week, no less. Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and like when his magic trick goes wrong, like he just it breaks my heart. I just wanted to pull him into a hug and be like, "It's okay, buddy. It's not that bad." Mhm. Mhm. It does. Yeah, she's like, "Why don't we go to dinner back to your dinner together and we can share a meal?" And it's like, "Oh, that's so sweet." Like you wanted to make sure he wasn't alone in this. Like that's ugh. I was feeling way too many emotions. And why your goat deserved to win. So, hmm, yeah, hmm, it was a really, really good episode. Hmm. It was an extremely good episode. Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, because they dropped the bomb of, oh, it's been 3 years. And now they're like, okay, now he knows this. Now we have to start over. Hmm. person that they're around. Yeah. Yeah, like it's a little lost in translation. Okay. Yeah. I've not seen New Amsterdam, so I can't make any judgments. I feel like that's what people's consensus thoughts on New Amsterdam was that it started off strong and then it really just petered down. But yeah, gotcha. We love when that happens. Looking at you, Dexter. But not to talk about those shows. Hmm. Okay. Interesting. I only read the recap of it, so I'm not really able to be like, oh yeah, it was great, or otherwise. Okay. Also, my main thing to say about this episode, because most of the rest of it just does not care. I do not care. Does not matter. Can you hear me? Not sure. We might end up having another situation like a few weeks ago. I just wanted to say that this episode, the only thing that matters is the final like showdown, I guess you could call it. Not really a showdown. Um, and it pissed me off that Winston was not the one to kill him. It was so dumb because this whole time they've had this woman just kind of meandering through the story and us not really knowing anything about why she's there. And then in the like last, in the final hour, basically, she tells her whole story to Winston and then goes and kills Cormac. And it's like, what? What? You did not set this up correctly. It does. It really doesn't. There's just yeah, there's just too much. It just was not a good conclusion and it made me question the whole series. So it it was kind of a cool scene. I'm not gonna lie, it was a cool scene, but like I felt like it was unnecessary. It was one of those situations where they were like, "Oh, this is the hero of the story, and he hasn't killed anybody, really, because we gave away the Cormac kill to this rando." I will forever be bitter about that. Just, I was like, Winston was supposed to kill him. Like that was the way it had been set up this whole time. Anyway, moving on. This was a silly episode. I just loved seeing the Starfleet badge basically come to life and be like, I'm gonna teach you this alien race how to be Starfleet. That's breaking all the rules here. Just, we don't care. Yeah. Which I feel like is kind of its own commentary on AI in general. It doesn't like you. I always just used Zoom when I recorded stuff.